Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Welcome. This is the pre-workshop to the Green Jobs event that is going to be happening next week. So we're going to kind of be just getting ready for next week. My name is Amy Compon, and I'm with the Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council. And today we're going to prepare for next week by talking about Zoom etiquette, as next week we will be on Zoom just like this while we're listening to the presentation and talking with employers. So we just wanted to talk about some good Zoom skills. We're also going to talk about first impressions, having a quick elevator speech about yourself. And then last, we're going to go over asking good questions to the employers next week. You guys, these tips are not only going to help with the workshop next week, but they're really great skills to have for any interactions that you have with employers, whether that's in person or virtual. Maybe some of you will be applying for part-time jobs this summer, or after next week's workshop, maybe some of you are going to want to set up some informational interviews with some of these employers. These are going to be tips that can help with that too. Some things are going to be in person, but some things will still be virtual, even with those interviews with employers and things. So good tips to have. I know you maybe have done distance learning for many months over the past year. Maybe you're Zoom professionals or Google Hangout professionals, whatever you've used at your school. So as we talk about this kind of Zoom etiquette, some of this might be review for you, and some of it might be new. So speaking of that, gosh, I almost forgot. So it's important to have your camera on during the Zoom event. Today, it does not matter. You can keep your cameras off today, but next week when we talk to employers, it's going to be really important that they know that you're there and that you're awake and that you're paying attention. So let me just go ahead and turn my camera on because this is good Zoom etiquette and we want to make sure we're good to go here. Okay, so more tips when using Zoom next week. So besides having your camera on, we do ask that you are always going to keep yourself muted. Unless you're going to ask or answer a question, then you could take the mute off. You'll also be able to use the chat box, which some of you have found at the bottom and are sending messages. So you could use that as well to ask or answer questions next week. And let me see here. Speaking of that, I got a private chat. So it's not professional to be on Zoom, like in my bed, cuddling with my dog, like just out of the shower. That's not professional. Okay, so let me go ahead and fix this here. Okay, one moment. Okay, there. Is that better? More professional. Okay, so I know next week you guys are going to be in your school and in your auditorium, so that won't be such a big issue. But if you are doing virtual interviews or informational interviews with some of these employers in the future in your home, it's super important to still be professional. Don't be in your bed with a towel from your shower, cuddling with your dog. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some more tips. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So just give me a second. All right. So more tips for Zoom and virtual type meetings like we're going to be doing next week. So find a clean and quiet space. Again, I know next week you guys will be at school, but in the future, if you're home, make sure you're in a clean and quiet space, not a lot of background distractions that would be behind you. Be prepared with your Zoom account. So have your name listed on the screen. Don't have a nickname on there or something silly. And also make sure that you don't have filters on. Be prepared for that. If you have not seen the cat filter issue with the lawyer and the judge, you should Google that later. We don't want any of that happening. So make sure your Zoom account is ready. You don't have filters on. You're ready to go and be professional. Have a good appearance. Clothing is not optional. Okay. Make sure you look presentable. Make sure your full face shows and that you have proper lighting. How many times have you been on a virtual call and this is how the other person is? Okay. So you want to make sure that you're ready to go, that your full face is showing and that it's not too light or too dark, that you're not able to see your face. Again, stay muted until you ask or answer a question. And again, you'll be able to use the chat box for that as well. Instead of unmuting yourself, that option is there. And then pay attention. Don't be texting on your phone. Don't have a side conversation with a student next to you. Be there, and this is how they're going to know that you're there and that you're interested, and that you're ready to engage with them. This week I watched a Zoom workshop with some students in a college. So they were talking with the college advisor about some different programming and stuff they had at the college. And she asked a question. One of the students answered, and as she answered, I was yawning. And that's how he sat the rest of the time after he answered his question. So I didn't have a good first impression about him, as you can imagine. And I'm guessing the advisor had some questions about him too, as far as how interested he really was in this. Okay. First impressions really go along with the Zoom etiquette because you're going to be doing Zoom next week with the employers. And so they are going to get their first impression through this video here, through the Zoom. First impressions are always formed quickly, whether this is being done virtually or in person. This is how people are going to remember you, and you will not get a second chance to make a good first impression. Okay. Always make sure that you smile, look like you're interested and you're engaged and you're happy to be there. Be well groomed and wear appropriate clothing. Okay. If you're doing this at home, maybe with an employer in the future, don't be laying in your bed. Have good posture so that you, just like in person, you want to have good posture and good body language, that you're there and that you're interested and you're ready to go. Limit jewelry, cover tattoos if you have a lot of tattoos, anything that might be distracting as the employer is talking to you, to try to limit that. And so they're able just to focus on you and not the other things. And then speak and act in a professional way. This is how people are going to remember you. And so as you're waiting for the presentation to start next week, your cameras are going to be on. Make sure you're making a good first impression, that they remember you in a positive way. So maybe not this. Okay. All right. I am going to show you a video that kind of explains first impressions too.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
What if we're supposed to be in masks, like
What's
in
that?
the state of Minnesota?
What's
There
your
is a
question?
mask mandate in the state.
Yep. So like when you're at school, you're going to have to leave your mask on, right? That's the rules. And so that's fine. I always think people can see your smile through your eyes, right? You can tell usually if someone's smiling and they're interested or if they're sleepy, right? So yeah, please keep your mask on. That's the rule at school. And how you're sitting now is great. If you're at home, of course, then the other facial features and things like that would be important because you'd be able to see your whole face. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thanks for asking. Okay, so now let me get my next screen shared. All right. Can you give me a thumbs up? Kevin, I can see you. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, here we go.
I do believe first impressions are important. I do not believe that when you're getting ready to come on a campus tour to see whether you're going to a college or go to a first interview, how you dress. You don't have to have a unbelievable wardrobe and all those things, but a nice polo shirt, a pair of khaki pants, or those kinds of things that just show that you realize that who you're meeting with, you care, you value enough the meeting that you want to dress for that part. So I think that's one. Eye contact. Eye contact is very important. I'll tell you what does not make a good first impression to me, or second or third or fourth. And I know we all have our cell phones, and I know we all have our earbuds and headphones. Someone that has those on, or someone is constantly looking at their phone when they're in a meeting, or they're walking across campus and they're looking down instead of looking up to greet someone, it's going to be kind of hard to talk to that person, or is that person really noticing what's going on around them? So put the cell phone away for a little while, you know, and when you're meeting with somebody for the first time, and make sure that your focus is on that person that you're actually meeting with. Those are all so important. They're little things, but those little things add up to become very important things, and really say everything about you as a person. You know, forget your degree, forget, you know, what's on paper. I want to know what you're like as a person, and those little qualities can mean a lot.
All right, so great information from her. And again, she was at a college, so this is not just for employers. This is for other businesses. It's for college. It's for teachers you might be meeting and things like that. So first impressions are huge. And again, you have one chance to make a good first impression. We're going to do a poll now. So in just a second, you should be able to see the poll on your screen, and then you can go ahead and answer. So true or false, you don't need to be professional on Zoom because it's virtual and it's not in person. And then which of the following would help make a good first impression? And I'm all right, almost all of you have answered. I'm going to just give it another minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. And I'll share the results there. So if you can see that, so you did very well. So number one, you don't need to be professional. That's false. You absolutely still need to be professional on a Zoom meeting, even though it's virtual and not in person. You still have to be ready and professional, and that this Zoom is going to give the employer their first impression of you. And then the following to help make a good first impression, again, good posture. It's very important. It's very important to smile. And Kevin made a good point there. We all have masks on, of course, when you're at school, but they're going to be able to see your smile through your eyes. And then make sure you dress neatly. Even virtually, it's important that you have clothing and it's appropriate clothing. And don't check your phone very often. That's one, like she mentioned in the video. It just shows that you're more engaged with that than what's in front of you. So you want to avoid that even virtually and also in person. Okay. All right, so I will stop that. All right, the next thing that we are going to talk about is an elevator pitch. And I am going to put the link in a chat. So you might already have this, and if not, I'm going to put the link in a chat. But if you're able to pull this up on your laptops, that would be great. It looks like this. It's an elevator pitch. Okay. And I will share my screen in case you don't have it in front of you. And we're going to kind of talk over this. So an elevator pitch is basically a short commercial about yourself. So it came from the idea that if you were in the elevator with somebody and they say, oh, tell me about yourself, or what do? You have a really short amount of time before they get off the elevator. to tell them who you are, what makes you stand out from other people, and something unique that they're going to remember you by. This is helpful when you're talking to employers and they might ask about you, or, oh, tell me about you or your schooling, what are you interested in? It's also a very common first question in an interview. It says, tell me about yourself. Okay. And so it kind of will just, in a short way, sum up everything about you and your qualities and your experience so far and your interests and your goals. Okay. So looking at the elevator pitch. So again, it's going to focus on important, impressive, and memorable aspects of your academic and professional career if you already have a job too. It highlights your experiences and your main interests and also what your goals are. So it is helpful to have on hand if you need to give a quick summary of yourself. Here it shows what to include. So elevator speeches are 1 minute or less. It can be pretty short, but powerful, right? So what to include in your 1 minute pitch. So tell them who you are, plus a credential or something that's going to differentiate you from your peers. So something that they're going to remember you by. State what your specific goal or your career interest is. So this will help them connect with you or be able to help connect you to somebody else that might be in the area or goal that you have. Talk about how you've demonstrated your interest. So it gives the example. Don't just say, I've always wanted to be a doctor, but you can say, I've taken these courses, I volunteered at the hospital, and this is my goal, right? So it already kind of shows what you've done. Talk about why you're qualified. So talk about your qualifications. Do you have work experience in this area already? Do you have volunteer experience there? Did you get an achievement in a certain class that kind of relates to this topic? So something like that to help you stick out with your qualifications. And then ask a question for assistance. So it suggests giving 2 options. And so the person has to come back with something, 2 options. So an example, if your company offers internships, I'd appreciate the name of the person in charge. Or maybe I can meet with you sometime next week and we can talk about this more. Okay. Be sure to offer your business card. We're going to watch a video that talks about that too. You might not think about having a business card when you're a student, but it is important. It's something that you can have on hand. It could be in your pocket, in your wallet, in your backpack. It will have your important contact information in, and it's quick and easy to pull out. And that way that employer or that advisor at the college, whoever can have a quick access to your information, and they'll be able to follow up with you easier in the future. Okay. This next page, and if you guys can see it on your screen too, if you're able to write on your screen, or if you want to type something up in a document in your laptop, I'd like you guys to just take a few minutes. This gives you just an easy way to kind of fill in the blanks. This is how you can start with your elevator pitch. It's brief, but it's something that you can at least start with and you can work on. You can change it. You might change it too a little bit depending on who you're talking to in that moment, right? So I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to give you a few minutes, and I would like you to kind of fill in the blanks and work on what would be your elevator pitch. Okay, you can go ahead. Okay, I'm going to give 2 more minutes.
I'm gonna go on Google Classroom, so it may take me a little bit longer to get it done.
Yep, that's fine. It'll be a good start at least. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop there just for the sake of time. I hope you've been able to fill in some or most of it. And this is something we would love for you to work on and have it ready kind of by next week in case we can engage with the employer more and you can kind of practice and give them your elevator speech. We're going to see an example of it, and I'm just going to get this pulled up here and make sure you can hear it. All right, he's going to give us an example of a speech.
In this video, we'll go over some great elevator pitch examples for students. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, check out my video, How to Make an Elevator Pitch. To successfully network and advance your career, you need to be adaptable. That's why your pitch will change depending on who you're talking to. Luckily for you, all you need to change is the call to action at the end. The goal of every elevator pitch should be to set up a better time to meet or talk, or to get the contact information for someone directly involved in the hiring process. If you're already speaking with someone involved with hiring, your pitch should open up a constructive conversation. It's then your responsibility to either land an interview or take the next step in the process. Let's run through some common examples of elevator pitches in different situations. Let's start with the classic example. Imagine you're at a career fair speaking with an HR representative or recruiter for a company you'd like to work for. These people are very much involved with the hiring process, so you can be direct. As you'll recall from my video on how to make an elevator pitch, your pitch should be structured like this. Number 1, who you are and what you've been doing lately. Number 2, what makes you unique. Number 3, your goal. And number 4, your call to action. Number 1. My name's Tony Thompson, and I've been a member of the Finance Club at Super Sweet University for 2 years. I'm currently running this year's stock pitch competition. I'm at my best when I need to solve a complex problem by analyzing and focusing on the most important information. I want to land a spot in the Investment Banking Analyst Summer Internship Program at JP Morgan this summer. Here's a copy of my resume. What type of candidate are you looking for? This example is a great way to start off a constructive conversation about yourself and the company. For me, the shorter you can make an elevator pitch, the better. This example is concise, informative, and most importantly, conversational. Now you just have to close on getting an interview. Another common situation is speaking with an employee of a company you'd like to work for. This person can usually put you in contact with someone in HR or a recruiter, but engaging them directly about the hiring process might not be productive. Hi, my name's Andy Anderson and I'm a senior at Awesome College. I interned at XYZ Marketing Company last year, and I learned a great deal about social media advertising and branding. Over the last 3 months, I've helped the campus coffee shop increase their sales by 20% through my social media marketing campaign. I'm focused on getting the digital marketing analyst position at Amazing Media after I graduate. Here's my card. Who would you recommend I speak with at Amazing Media to learn more about the opportunity? With this approach, they understand who you are, what you're interested in, and that you can produce results. It's unlikely they'll have any reservations about putting you in touch with the right person. At times, you'll find yourself at an event, and during casual conversation, someone will ask you about your career plans. Classic, right? You might not know much about the person. They could be involved in the industry you're looking to break into or not. Either way, here's a good approach to leverage that situation to advance your interests. My name's Joe Jacobs and I'm a junior at Really Cool College. Right now we're learning how to use advanced analytics in the sales process. In our sales competition last month, I was the highest selling student by over 20%, and I used advanced analytics to help achieve that result. My goal is to become a commercial salesperson at Bridgestone after I graduate. Do you know anyone at Bridgestone or in the tire industry that I can connect with? Not everyone will be able to help you, but if they can, hand them your business card so you can get connected. This is the perfect way to turn small talk into a potential career opportunity. Get a business card with your contact information on it. Yes, even if you're a student. It's much easier in informal situations to use that rather than whipping out your resume. Remember to read the situation and be prepared to change your approach if necessary. If your interaction has to be brief, hand them your business card so you can connect at a later time. Let me know if there's other situations you'd like me to cover. If you have
All right, so he gave us some good examples and different examples depending on who you might be talking to and who you might be giving your elevator pitch to. So I just encourage you guys to work on yours, kind of have it ready, practice it with a friend or your teacher or your parents so that you can kind of get comfortable with it, and do consider the business card option, especially when you might be meeting with employers for job shadows or interviews. The next thing we're going to talk about is questions for employers. And I'm going to get this in the chat here. All right, so the second link is in the chat. And we are going to look at appropriate questions for employers. So next week, get it up here. So next week during the Green Jobs event, we will be talking to employers. There'll be a panel and they'll be able to tell us where they work, what their company does, why it's a green job and has environmentally friendly positions, what their typical day might be like. But at the end, you are going to have time to ask questions, and you want to make sure that your questions are appropriate and that they're professional. Not to be silly. Again, these are companies that you might want to do a job shadow with. And so you're going to want an interview later to be able to do a job shadow. And you guys, maybe in several years, you're going to be applying for this company. And so you want to make sure, again, that you have a good first impression with them and that you're professional with these companies next week. So you can kind of look through here on your screen or mine, but appropriate questions. What's your job title? What have you done for education so far? And what's your typical day like? What kind of tools do you use on the job? Okay, so these are lots of ideas, not just for next week, you guys, but in interviews. When you're having a job interview, it's important to ask the employer questions because it helps them know that you are interested and really want to be a part of their company. So look through these. Have some in mind. Now, next week, there'll be several of you, of course, on the Zoom call again with these employers. And so not everybody will have a chance to ask a question, but we do ask that you are able to ask a question. You can unmute yourself. You can put something in the chat if there's something you'd like to know more about one of the employers. Okay. I'm going to stop that, and we're going to do one more poll before the end here. All right, here we go. So the poll should be up. So about how long should your elevator speech be? And then what are some good questions to ask employers? You can pick all of them that are good questions.
Are we typing on the questions too?
You don't have to.
Okay, because mine says access denied.
Oh, if you can save that, you guys, on your laptops, or we can provide the link again too, but it's just important to have that you look through it before next week again. I know we didn't have a lot of time today to look through all of the questions, but look through it before next week, and then always review it before you would have an interview with any employer, whether that's for a job shadow or a job. Okay, I'm just going to give another few seconds here. It looks like almost everybody responded. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and end it, and I'll share. So 71% of you said 1 minute. And that is correct. So it's 1 minute or less. As the video said, the shorter the better. It's very brief, it's concise, your information is there, and you can move on with the employer. So, 1 minute or less. And then good questions to ask employers. So how long have you been in this position? That's a great question to ask. Can you relax on the job if you're really tired? No, I probably wouldn't ask that one. I think it's gonna, it will make them think that you are lazy and that you're gonna wanna relax on the job and not work very hard, right? What is your salary? So this is something we wouldn't recommend that you ask an employer, especially of their own salary. That's very personal information. And they might not even share that like with their family and their friends. If you are applying for a regular job, not a job shadow, but an employment, and if you're offered the job, then that's something you could ask, like what type of wage is for this position, because that way you know, but you do not want to ask the employers next week how much they get paid. And then what's a typical day like for you? This is a great question to ask. They'll be able to walk through their day, and so you get an idea of what they do day to day, and you can see if it's something that you're interested or not. So thank you for answering those, you guys. I will stop that. All right. So everybody, this is all the information we wanted to cover with you today in this workshop to kind of get you ready for next week. The next steps, next week, you will be, it's on Wednesday morning, and you will be on a Zoom again, just like this, for the Green Jobs Workshop. I believe it's right when you're getting to school. Please remember the Zoom tips that we talked about today, the first impression tips. We are going to ask that you all have your cameras on that day, so the employers are not talking to black screens or icons, that they would be able to see your face and see that you're interested in what they're saying. Please have questions ready that you can talk to, or that you can ask the employers that day if there's time at the end. So we do ask that everybody have some ready. And after next week's workshop, so next week's workshop is on Zoom. And then after that, I'm hoping to be able to come to your school in person, and we can continue this talk in regards to employment stuff. So maybe we can look at interviewing skills to get you ready for interviews with businesses. Some of the businesses for next week that you hear about, you might want to take a business tour. You might want to have an interview with them to learn more about that type of job, to see if it's something you're interested in. So I'd love to work with you more in person on some of those interviewing skills and help set up some job shadows or business tours for you as well. So I hope to see you someday besides through a screen. Does anybody have any questions that you want? You can unmute or you can chat.
Are we applying for an actual job or?
Nope. So next week, you're going to hear from employers that have green jobs. So it'll give you examples of different positions they have that are environmentally friendly. You might want to have an interview with them because you want to do a job shadow at that company, which means that you can go into the company and work alongside somebody for that day and really see what they do. And a lot of times they'll ask for interviews for that. Sometimes people want to just get more information, and there's some companies, maybe not even the ones next week, but if there's a different career you're interested in going into, sometimes with HIPAA, like medical things, especially like with HIPAA laws, you can't go in person and job shadow and see what they do, but you can do an interview with them, like an informational interview. And that doctor or that nurse can talk to you in person or over Zoom and kind of explain what their day looks like, why they went into that profession, and things like that.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, any other questions that anybody has? Okay, otherwise, Shelley Kay, anything else that you want to add in regards to next week's workshop?
No, just like this was a really fantastic overview of everything. So thank you, Amy. Really appreciate your professionalism and giving us a great example of how we should operate next week. And just, I think it just be timing, we're going to be getting started right at 8:20. So if we can get in and get settled quickly, that would really help out and just be ready with a couple of great questions. That'd be fantastic.
Awesome.
How about if we all give Amy a big reaction, a big thumbs up or clap? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. I hope everybody has a great day, a wonderful weekend, and we will see you all on here next week. Bye.